Have a quorum. I will call the meeting for the Conservation Commission for October 2nd open. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes from our September 18th meeting.
No, make that motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? So moved. First on the agenda, we have a public hearing for 25 River Street.
They're here for the springtime.
I can wait on, if they want to go.
Okay.
You're on.
That being
So-
said, we are going to reopen the 109 Spring Street.
Yeah, that's town.
Yep.
Oh.
Alright, good evening everyone. Greg Driscoll, Jacobs Driscoll Engineering. Presenting Jack Peters for Spring Ponds. Submitted revised plans earlier today. I'm responding to all the comments from Nick Laney that we received last Thursday, I believe. I went through the comments with John earlier today, and do so right now. All right.
Just a second, if I might. If you're trying to scroll from sheet to sheet, use two fingers.
Oh, we do.
Two fingers,
Gotcha.
like drag the two fingers on the pad. And it should help.
Yeah.
All right, sorry.
All right.
One will do it.
Yeah, or you can, once you've clicked on it, you can use the toggle switch to go down.
Okay. So does everybody have a
Which
copy
one
of
is
the-
it?
Spring Street?
Yeah, they got the latest
The very top.
downloaded.
So I'm looking at
Right here, you
the
mean?
response to comments letter dated today.
I didn't give them that, but you could
Oh,
go
yeah,
through it.
okay, I see it.
Okay.
Right.
This one.
Alright, so first, I think nine comments from Nick Laney on his letter dated September 25th. Actually, first 10 comments are more or less plan changes. Go through those real quick. Says the current plan set makes references to features such as an infiltration basins and cross culverts, which are part of the previous design. The applicant needs to review plans and change drainage calculations to bring them up to date. So I've done that, and I've gone through the plans and made sure references to previous design elements that are no longer in the current design. Number 2, show location of stone check dam between the grass swale and sediment forebay. That's shown on detail 173 on the plan, so that's right there. The detail sheet shows. Show the step check dam right here, and we didn't have it on the plan view, so that's, I have that right there. Detail 173 is for an infiltration basin, must be updated to show extended detention basins. So basically what happened was we revised the detail for the extended detention basin, but we didn't change the title of the detail. Right here it still said infiltration basin, so that was one of those cleanup items. A question about the what is the estimated seasonal high water table at the detention basins and sediment forebays. Add information to detail 173 again. So did that right here. I called it out from test pit 9. Elevation is 60.41. Appears the forebays may be less than 2 feet above high groundwater. In my response to that, I said that for an infiltration basin, we try to keep it 2 feet above, but we're not accounting for infiltration here. I thought it would be 1 foot above. I actually raised the bottom of the basin half a foot from the last design to get a little bit more separation. So we're about a little over a foot above groundwater with the bottom of the forebay and the extended dry basin section.
But
So
it's
we're
not,
trying to
but it's
get-
not infiltrating, it's just letting it
Yeah,
pass through?
yep, absolutely. We're not taking any credit for infiltration either in the design. Correct bottom of extended basin elevation from 57 to 61. That's from when we were proposing a wet basin. That note was right here. So the actual bottom of the basin is 61.5 now. Number 6, detail 165 on sheet 8 calls for check dams.
Do you have your report hard copy for Jonathan? And could you email me at some point, please?
Detail 165 on sheet 8 calls for check dams to be constructed of stone with a minimum of 50% greater than 12 inches. So that's kind of an oversight. That's more of a check dam for erosion control. That's this detail right here. And this check dam is really to be meant for the in between the cells of the filtration extended detention basin. So there are these berms here and here.
Mhm.
And talking with planning board, they wanted me to have something more permeable so that will eventually the entire basin will draw down. So instead of having 12-inch stones there, which is really large, I revised that to have a mixture of 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, and 1 inch wash stone. So it'll provide more filtration and slow it down between the transfer between the cells of the basin. Detail 127 calls for
How do you know how much of a mixture to put
Um,
with which size stones? You
I guess
just,
you just get a feel for it, you know. for
just
both.
kind of mix it up? And
Yeah. And if you go, if you try to put sand in between, that's obviously going to wash
Yeah.
away. So you want something that's, the 1 inch, 3/4 inch stone will stay in place. And I figured fill those in a little bit too with some
Yeah.
1/4 inch, some pea stone. This is comment number 7, or bullet point number 7. Detail 127 calls for a big concrete strip. Right here, that's, on the plan view, that's the, where the sidewalk dips down and the water comes off overland
Mhm.
over the upper cul-de-sac, right through here. So I just changed these details to reference the concrete scupper that's bringing the water across. Number 8, dimension of the crushed stone pad at the 5-inch orifice. So right here, we got a stone pad right here to make sure. That's actually was introduced when we had the wet basin design, but this is going to keep vegetation from growing too close to the outlet control structure. So I added dimensions on it. 6 feet wide by 10 feet long. Provided typical detail for a temporary dewatering basin, which is also required under the local stormwater management bylaw. I believe ended up on the last sheet. Detail sheets. So right up there. And he also asked me to leave any portion of the force main within the 25-foot buffer. I'm not sure that we have any within the 25, so I figured he meant the 50-foot. So that's this section right in here. I called up for the sewer force mains to be sleeved within the 50-foot buffer. So that's that section. And note in the plan again. And then, so that's, you've seen the letter. He had those bullet points, and then he had a chart here going through the different stormwater management standards,
Mhm.
DEP stormwater regulations. So the next 11 through 14, I believe. Am I actually through 19, through the end, are all have to do with those, so. Stormwater Management Standard 1, untreated runoff from the first 75 feet of the proposed road. Sheet flows into Spring Street. And untreated runoff from driveways. The 3 proposed houses flow towards the BBW. So there is a high point right here. So this section of the road does go out towards Spring Street, uncontrolled, untreated. As far as peak flows go and all that stuff, it complies. But it's not treated. And then for the houses, build out plan. So in order to address that, I'm calling out swales to go along here, so these driveways will go this way. There's, the berm for the basin is a little bit too high for the flow overland into the basin, so we're gonna have a swale going through here, and that grass will provide treatment. For this driveway right here, swale going around this way, that'll provide treatment of the, the small area that's the driveways before it gets to
The berm's gonna be too high?
the berm between the basin and these driveways, these grassed areas here. It's 64, we have 63 here, so we can't get the driveways to go around and in.
Oh, okay.
Basin. So I agree with that comment, except for the driveways, I put notes on the plans to explain that, to create a swale so that these areas flow around that way and they get treated by the grass. And we're gonna ask for I haven't written a letter yet, but between now and the next meeting, we're a letter to ask for a waiver to the local stormwater bylaw for the section of the proposed road that goes out towards Spring Street. And that's really the only waiver we would need.
Actually, if I may, for the record, Matthew Watsky, I'm not sure that a waiver is needed. Is a standard prohibiting any new untreated discharges and isn't specifically called out in all of your stormwater rules. You have an incorporation, a reference of DEP stormwater rules, and the DEP stormwater rules are not applicable to subdivisions that are under 5 lots, under 4 lots, which this is. And so this is one of those, call it aspirational standards. You do it to the extent that it's practicable, but it's not actually a waiver if you can't comply. If this were the 6-lot subdivision and it was subject to the rules, it would apply. That's my take on it. So either way, I think if you want to have further discussion about it, Greg can explain why it's just not practical to get this connected and have further treatment of it. And the question of how do we actually put it through your review process, it's glad to get your thoughts on it. I was thinking that waiver was not necessary.
So where's the water going then?
There's a high point right here, so it flows out towards Spring Street. There's a
Goes-
portion of the existing property that flows that way as well.
And it's going down the street into a basin?
So whichever catch basin is, there's one
Yeah, there's
here,
a-
I'm not sure if it makes it over that way.
There's one on that,
There's another one down
on the
the
same
road.
side, yeah.
Yeah. of the-
Question, the original 6-lot subdivision, if I'm not mistaken, you did have some going out to the street in that one,
Yeah.
It was.
so it's a lot less now with the 3 lots.
Yeah, it doesn't look like there's a lot of runoff.
Yeah.
I mean, something to be really,
Yeah. And if there was like if there was a municipal storm drain system headed down here, and I see that with a pipe going out that way. If there was like a drain line here and
But with the driveways though, how you gotta come around, is that gonna add any water going down the roadway?
no, the driveways go, they
So
stay
they-
on the property and they go through.
It's gonna stay on the property and go off,
Yeah,
so it's not gonna be anywhere on the street?
correct.
Okay.
The key is that these are conceptual designs for doing the calculations and showing compliance. The next step is that someone's going to be hired, and it may not be him, to do up a design plan for the lot, for the building, to get the building permit. And
They should
the
also
grading
follow-
might be different and everything, so we're probably going to have to put something in the order of conditions that we have to be able to review individual sites, even if they're over 100 feet away, just to make sure that the stormwater gets handled the way they're talking about. Which it's not gonna be that difficult of a thing, because my guess is, he described a situation where the berm is a little higher than the adjacent ground. My guess is the developer will just, the developer of that lot will just grade it so that it blends in and not have something that's standing out there by itself. How much the difference?
Right here,
Yeah,
so that's 63 wrapping around back that way. 64 here and another 64 here is the top of the berm.
so a foot maybe?
Yeah, if
So they're not
they
gonna
wanted
be
to bring more fill in, to have
Yeah.
another foot higher, and they could get into the basin that way.
Right.
So he met with me today, we went over it item by item, and obviously the 53G for the commission hasn't had a chance to report back to us, because he just finished it today and sent him the stuff today. But it looks pretty good, and so I don't anticipate that there's gonna be much that we have to worry about at the next meeting. But because we don't have it, I'm gonna recommend that we continue it, and hopefully it'll be wrapped up at that meeting.
Looks that way.
Anybody have any other questions? I think we're almost to the point of completion here.
Yeah.
Been a long slog.
Anybody questions in the audience? Hearing none, then I will entertain a motion to continue till our next meeting on October 16th.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Moving second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, now we'll go back to the scheduled new public hearing for 25 River Street. We're setting up. I will read it into the record. Under the Wetland Protection Act, Chapter 131, Section 40 of Mass General Law is amended. In the West Bridgewater Wetland Protection Bylaw Rules and Regulations, the Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing October 2nd, 2018, in the McDonald Brown Conference Room, 65 North Main Street. By notice of intent filed by Collins Civil Engineering on behalf of Joseph Spadia to upgrade a residential septic system in an existing home within a bordering vegetative wetland at 25 River Street. We're open. Green cards?
Yep. Green cards.
Thank you.
Dave Clinton from Collins Civil Engineering Group. This is a septic repair, and the yellow is the property line, the green is the wetland line delineated by Brook Monroe. The pink is the 50-foot, and the orange is the 100-foot buffer. This is an existing building. It's the building right behind CVS. I'm sure that everybody's kind of familiar with it, with the CVS going in there and everything. This is the stockade fence that kind of cuts around the the wetland area between this building and CVS. And the building has a little, it's kind of pork chopped. It goes back a little bit, and it widens out even further back here. We plan on putting the new septic system where the soils were most advantageous, and that's test pits 1, 2, and 3. As we got close to the street, the soils degraded somewhat. They weren't really great for perk test. So that's why we positioned it here. The existing system is in the back of the building. It's a little tiny cesspool. It's failed miserably. You can just see it barely in the circle, dash circle. This is going to be a pump system. It's going to go into a 1,500-gallon two-compartment tank that's inside the 50. This is all lawned area up to the stockade fence. It'll go into a pump chamber and then across a 30-inch CMP drain line with a sleeve and into a septic system that is slightly mounted. We have a 62 here. The elevation going around the system is 60. So due to the water table, it is slightly mounted. There won't be any interference with a 30-inch pipe. It is a tight pipe. We do propose a sleeve 15 feet either side of the pipe for the force main once we cross it. There is a silt fence that's going to start at the building and work its way to within 29 feet of the wetland, or I'm sorry, 22 feet of the wetland, and work away the whole construction area. It's a pretty accessible site from the street if you've been out there. There's plenty of room to work. We've got a stockpile area and a dewatering area that are outside the 100-foot buffer. We do have to maintain a distance from the existing catch basin that's out there. And we are proposing silt sacks in both catch basins that are out there on River Street.
How much elevation are you filling in from the current lawn or grade that's there?
It's a 62 to the top, and there's a 60 elevation that runs through the property there. So it's about 2 feet. We did use all H20 component pieces for the septic system. The owner of the property may want to put some parking there in the future, which he would come back in front of this board again. So we just prepared him for that. Everything is H20 loading over the septic system.
So is this gonna be more than a single-family home?
Right now it's I think there's it's a multifamily home.
Oh, is it multi?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. It's a 4-bedroom house, and I know he's got a couple of tenants in there.
Is that the one that's right next to the driveway of CVS?
CVS.
Yeah, it's the old doctor's
Yeah.
office building.
It looks like that's
It's not that big,
70s.
right?
No.
It's a multifamily?
Not a multifamily. I think he's got like 2 tenants in there.
Oh, right.
So,
This is the flat roofed?
yeah, flat roof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you turn in the green cards?
Yes, I did.
Okay, I was busy trying to figure out why this thing didn't open. Did you guys do the same thing?
I have no questions.
My only concern is, and I've seen it during some of our real heavy rain events, when we've had extended periods, a lot of water forms in that lot. And I just don't want to see it displaced. I can't remember how far up it goes, but it goes quite a ways.
Mhm.
And if you're filling that much of an area in,
It's,
with potential coming further down the road to make it a
it's
parking
very
area?
flat here. You can see
Right,
it's
that's
very
why I was
flat.
concerned where it was pretty
Yeah.
much a level, and
Yeah.
I've seen water, I mean, pretty close to the road. And knowing that it's 60, you're taking all of that surface area that normally would hold, and it's gotta go somewhere.
Yeah, most of it will still drain to the back. It's 60 along the road, and it's 58 in the back. So it would naturally tend to drain to the back.
Right, 61, 60.
It's just very flat, that's all. I mean,
Yeah.
in the back there, it's completely flat. You can't even tell.
Mm.
Is there only one cesspool there?
There is only one cesspool. There's a tank here, a cover somewhere around here. We didn't show it. It will definitely need to be abandoned, but
Yeah.
I don't think it's functioning. I popped it, it's only like 2 feet deep.
Yeah, right.
So it's completely dry.
Piece of it's gone.
So this
There's
is
obviously sewage getting
62,
into that,
so
Yeah.
that
it's-
30, let's call it the 30-inch drain
Hmm.
somewhere, either
What was
up,
it before?
It's just a flat.
stream
one,
from it or
60,
downstream from it, but
2 more feet of
it
fill in that
outfalls
whole
right
area.
into the town river,
Which,
and
How much is
and
gone?
it stinks.
right, I mean,
We have proposed I thought we had a barrier. Yeah, we have a barrier that's gonna run
Along that side?
Yeah, along that side. And from what George has told me about this, because he's done the research on this, supposedly it's a tight pipe. But I don't know if that's completely, nobody can verify that. So it's a corrugated metal pipe, it's supposed to be a tight pipe. And we do propose the sleeve across there with the 2-inch pipe, and we're doing the impermeable barrier along the pipe side, so.
The engineers for CVS, when it was being proposed, ran a camera down there, and
That pipe?
part, that
Yeah.
part of it was crushed, so they replaced the
Yeah.
part that was crushed. CVS did, and so I believe it is true that it's tight. I don't know if it's watertight, but it's not like,
Did they run it all the way to the street?
it goes all the way to the catch basin in the
The
street.
new pipe?
Yeah.
I remember that.
I guess the only other question I have on this is one of the tenants living in the RV in the back?
I couldn't say.
Some people have been questioning about the,
All I can do is ask the client.
no,
like,
that's all right, I just
Yeah.
didn't know
Yeah.
whether that was planning to expand this structure in some way so that it handles more than.
I think in the future, he does either want to expand the structure either up, and then do some parking here. I think that would be, or just replace the structure, those would be his only two options, because there's not any room to work with,
Yeah.
so.
Well, it's definitely an improvement than polluting the groundwater the
Mm.
way cesspool does, so.
Is that the reason why they're replacing it, is because it's
It's a cesspool in failure.
infill, yeah?
All set.
Anybody have any other questions? All right. Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to close the hearing.
Motion closed.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor? So moved. And I will entertain a motion to issue a standard order of conditions for a septic repair.
Make that motion.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Moved. I will entertain a motion to grant work within the 50-foot.
Motion to grant work within the 50.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, did everybody have a tough time opening that one up?
Yeah, that's why I pulled out the
I don't know.
the old-fashioned way.
Yeah.
And Kitty, we lost one.
Oh, that was my favorite one.
We'll just have to super glue it.
Tie it.
You know, then they're hotter, then they don't fit.
Next, we have Wetland Protection Bylaw, Article 44, Section 10, which is our fee schedule. And there's a public hearing for that, which, I think that we have other continued hearings. You want me to open it and table it?
Yeah, why don't we do that?
And that way there we can, so for the record, under the Wetland Protection Act, under the West Bridgewater Wetland Protection Bylaw Rules and Regulations, Article 44, Section 10 of the West Bridgewater Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on October 2nd, 2018 in the McDonald Brown Conference Room to discuss the update of filing fees and schedules for the West Bridgewater Conservation Rules and Regulations. We're open, and I will entertain a motion to table this until after the continued hearings.
Make that motion?
Second.
Moving second, all those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Moving on then to the continued hearings, we have 265 East Center Street. Which they requested a,
I don't believe I have any plans on this one to provide.
good evening.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Scott Rogers from J.K. Humphrey Engineering. Before you tonight is a request for an amended order of conditions. This was a permit that was issued earlier on. So the project now consists of a change in use essentially. There was a car wash proposed in this location, now going to be contractor units. Mr. Delano, the conservation agent, had asked us to do a soil erosion, sediment and soil erosion control plan, which we provided. That will include, silt socks around the perimeter of the work, a construction entrance. The plan shows a construction trailer. Construction trailer and porta potties located here. Also shows soil stockpile areas surrounded by a siltation barrier in the back. And we're showing a temporary swale with stone check dams every 100 feet, which gets you to an area back here, which is a temporary sediment basin. Lastly, there was a request by the conservation agent to provide, because of the change in use, we're providing interior floor drains inside the building. So we've shown those with a continuous wet trap. And finally, in a oil water or oil sand separator, which is OS 100 by Streamco, which is essentially a tight tank outside the building, and then that'll be vented to the roof. So with that, I'd like to answer any questions that you may have.
John did.
John, do you?
Yeah,
Any-
the last discussion with the engineers was that they needed to have a tight tank for the storage of vehicles inside the building. And they provided some information about that, except for it doesn't meet the requirements of DEP or the state plumbing code. So to try to move this along, I'll pull out those references and send it by email to them so that they can make those changes on the plan. But other than that, I don't have any issue with the plan. It's about the same type of impact type site that the original car wash was, but we can't have vehicles inside of a building or storage of items inside the building that might contaminate the groundwater by leaking out and getting into the drain system. So why this doesn't meet the plumbing code is that the traps in the floor drains need to be continuously filled with water. And without the types of plumbing devices that will add water to those traps as it evaporates, the trap will vent through the building and could create some explosions or poisonous gases. And so even if you have a vent outside, having that trap open, just like any sewer pipe, it brings those gases in. So they need to do a trench inside the trench drain inside the building with the proper traps according to the plumbing code, and then the outside, in order to comply with DEP, has to be a double-lined. There has to be a containment device of some sort, secondary containment device, and leak detection. There's a couple of ways that can be handled. One would be putting a rubber liner inside of a concrete or fiberglass tank, and with a leak detector inside that, but then you don't meet the containment problem. The other way to do it is to actually have two tanks, one inside of another. And so what they usually do is either buy one that's manufactured that way, or they do two concrete tanks and insert the smaller one inside the larger one, and then they put the alarms and the leak detection type things inside that. And it's all vented up through the building and not where it's going to be into the inside of the building. It'll be on the outside of the building. So those are the basics of it, and this does not appear to meet that requirement. So I'll send all that information to them. I was going to try to get it to them today early so that they can make changes, but we just got bogged down with a whole bunch of things that were happening, so wasn't able to do that.
Any other questions? Think that can be done for the next meeting, or?
Yep, I don't see why not,
Yeah, it should be
Okay.
a pretty easy
I
fix. It
mean,
just,
and you're not planning on trying to get construction done?
I don't think so. He has to go back before the planning board, I believe, with floor plans and all that.
Okay,
So,
all right. And I'll entertain a motion to continue till the 16th.
Motion to continue?
Second?
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
All righty, another one that looks like we might be close to finished.
I would like the car wash.
Get them off of our plate. $255 Pleasant Street. Continued public hearing for a commercial building and site work within 100 feet.
I don't have a presentation board, but you've got copies of all the plans, and I can go through them right here and answer any questions you may have. I'm Larry Hargreaves, for the record, I guess, and I'm here to talk about a proposed new building at 255 Pleasant Street, which is going to require parking and access to go inside the 100-foot buffer zone. And I think community days.
Thank you.
I don't think there's anything in there for.
Right, I was gonna say there's not one for this one. All right.
The plan is to take down the house and the other structures and also remove the existing septic system. I don't know if you're familiar with the house, but it was destroyed by fire 2 years ago, maybe, badly damaged.
What house was that?
255. It's on the left just before you turn under the bridge.
Oh, yeah, under the bridge, yeah. It's still there, yeah.
Okay, John, do you have anything before we?
Get over.
I know DEP, we're waiting for a number, I guess.
DEP needs to get a copy of the full notice of intent sent to Natural Heritage.
So that was confirmed, it was sent to Natural Heritage.
And they have because they just, when did they give you the email
It came in today.
that they,
So I talked to Bruce, he said he talked to them about it, and that was all sent to Natural Heritage.
They did send it.
Yep.
You need to send the proof that it was sent to,
Yeah, he did that. I talked to him yesterday. So he sent
okay,
it.
because as of today, the email that I had indicated, I think it's on your notes there.
It has been sent, the proof of mailing.
I might
That's
have
what he
put
said
it
he
in the
wanted, just a
file
proof of mailing.
With a note on it. See if the next page under is the
Yeah,
memo.
DEP.
See if that, it has it right underneath there.
DEP has received the subject notice of intent, it's currently under review. So they've got it, but it's currently under review for the issuance of a file number. It appears the project site is located within an estimated habitat of rare wildlife. Please provide proof of mailing or hand delivery for notice of intent to Natural Heritage. The file number will, cannot be issued until DEP receives proof that Natural Heritage has been
And that was
notified.
given to them yesterday, according to Bruce Tilling. I talked to him yesterday.
Okay.
Because I was asking the same question, how come we don't have a number yet? And he said they reached out to him saying they needed proof of mailing. I mean, it obviously sent to them.
So this
They've
got sent to Kitty, yeah, September 26th, so,
Oh, I only opened it today.
Right. so they may now
Sorry.
have an updated one.
I'm gonna check that right now.
Okay. But that won't prevent us from going on with the rest of this.
Yeah.
So, up to the minute, they don't have any file number issued. It was filed on September 25th. The application was filed on the 25th. And there's no number filed as of right now, so we'd have to continue it anyway, but as long as you're resolving
Yeah, I
that.
realize that we're not gonna, you can't close it until you get the file number, so.
Right.
But from what I remember, they already signed up on this lot, John, when they did the lot next door. 'cause we
What's that?
did- The Natural Heritage already signed up on this lot when they did the lot B. They signed up lot A and B because we did the conservation easement at the same time on both lots.
Yep. I don't think it's gonna be an issue, but we
Yeah.
still need to
Yeah,
have that.
he said he just needed proof of mailing, so he sent it, so they got it.
So, there was, on the last report, not this current one, but the last report, I indicated that there was some minor grading into the 50-foot no-touch, which has a conservation easement on it, so we'll have to, and I don't see it as a problem in terms of having the minor grading go into it, provided we reword the conservation easement, so that means amending the one that's on file, and the only way you can do that is to have an agreement to amend it, and then we record it at the registry as an amendment to the conservation easement. So that's just a paper type, red tape type of issue, but again, I think I need to be able to have some time to get out there and do some water table determinations by correlating it with the big blue building that's there now, the type of water tables we found then, with a water table across the street at 240, I don't know, the one that Kyle Johnson
249.
was doing, the one that has the big pond of water sitting in the front, probably the water table. So I'll try to get some correlation of elevations to that and be able to give you a report at the next meeting. And then maybe at that point, all of these things come together with the file number and my analysis of the water table. And I think at that point, it would be pretty much done unless the commission has some concerns over it.
This is going before the planning board as well currently?
It's on the 17th, on the planning board. You're on the 16th next one, right?
I'm just not noticing much of a planting plan, and I typically know that planning board requires a little bit more than just all pavement and concrete and buildings.
Well, there is going to be landscaping. I talked to Hugh about this, and he's not really
Okay.
that concerned. The board members.
No, I was just curious, I
Yeah.
just,
What size is the building there that's there now? How many square feet is that about?
The one next door, that's 20,250. This is 15,000, so it's a smaller building. He does want the ability, it's a company called Warwick Fasteners, they're industrial fasteners, they're moving from Rhode Island.
Oh, okay, so it doesn't have anything to do with the building that's there now?
No, it's a totally
So it's
different
separate,
company.
okay.
That's, the owner lives in Massachusetts, who wants to put his business here, so.
Oh, okay.
so the final building will be how many square?
15,000.
15 with the future expansion of
But He
another,
wants to have that potential for future expansion, no set timetable, you know.
and that's just gonna be asphalt for now, or?
correct, Asphalt
Okay.
for now.
While we're at it, are you planning to have vehicles go into the building?
Yeah, there's a trench drain and also a tank. You didn't get a copy of that? Because it's been submitted, showing the tank with the alarms on it and everything, and the trench drain at the door. It's for customer pickup, so when customers come in for will call, they can load up the trucks. There's no vehicles going to be parked in it.
Okay, I'll check it out.
Yeah. But to go to Michael, you should have a copy of that. It was submitted.
No, I haven't, sometimes they don't get things over to us
Yeah.
until it's time to sign off, and then by then, we've already approved it.
Yeah, but it's exactly what you talked about. It's a trench drain with the alarms on and a double tank, you know, so it's
Okay.
exactly what you mentioned. I looked at my file.
So it's
I've
with the
seen it, I
building
don't have it.
department?
Sorry?
It's with the building
Mike's got
department?
it, yeah.
Okay.
So there won't be any vehicles going in and out of the building?
To load and unload.
Just, but not all the way in, or?
No.
And there's a loading area.
Just-
There's, Mike's also got the floor plan, if you look at it, which shows like a loading area in the
Yeah.
corner. It's a warehouse type setup.
Okay.
So it's not like pickup trucks and stuff like that, you know,
Yeah.
industrial.
Oh, it just says overhead
loading
door
dock,
here,
yeah.
so I don't know if that was like a,
That'll be great.
to drive in, I know the loading dock there, but,
Yeah, it's a drive-in door,
so, okay.
for people to back in and then can load them up and then.
But not drive in the building and do like,
No, it's all gonna be shelving, it's a warehouse,
Okay.
office setup, so.
Snow storage area? I don't see that proposed on the plan. We typically ask for that
Okay.
as well. Where do you plan on putting it, or is it gonna be all removed?
It would be put somewhere on the side, I'll have to talk to Billing about that, we can get that ready for the next meeting too.
Other than those, anybody have any other concerns, comments, audience questions? So, other than a few things to add to the plan, and you're checking the water table and getting the DP number, we're good to continue to the next hearing?
Motion to continue.
Moving seconded to continue to the 16th. All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. All righty.
All right, before we go on to the next one, it appears that Chromebook doesn't like PDFs. So we've got to find a way,
You liked the first one, okay.
well, as long, I'm not sure that was a PDF though. What kind of drawing was it?
Yeah, that was PDF, Spring Commons
It was a
was a
PDF?
PDF.
How come that came up then?
Well, the River Street one's a TIFF, that's why.
Ah,
And it doesn't like TIFFs.
tips.
So it just gotta be converted to PDF instead of a TIFF. That's
Okay.
all.
So
Get there,
I
don't
checked,
We're learning. It's
I checked all of them to make sure everything downloaded.
All right.
Didn't open them though.
Yeah,
So sorry about that.
getting there.
That's okay. We're moving along. Next we had 2610 14 Bits Way. And I assume they're not here, and they are looking for a continuance.
Oh, they're here.
Oh, they're
Oh,
here.
yeah, there you are. Okay, never mind.
Sincere.
All right.
Good evening.
What do we got?
For the record, my name is Scott Rogers from JK Homebuilder Engineering. This project was before you, I believe, back in July. Since that time, we have gone through some changes to the drainage system and the plan, some plan revisions through planning board. We worked with HML Associates, Nick Laney, and we were approved at the planning board last month with Nick's clean letter, if you will. We did receive comments through the review engineer for conservation, Allen and Major. I did speak with Phil Cordero. We have made modifications to the plan again as well. We've revised the plans, we've revised the drainage calcs, added a bunch of additional backup data. We did make some changes to ponds. For instance, we made some changes to the weirs, elevations on some of the overflow areas and stuff like that. I would consider most of the changes we made were pretty minor. A lot of detailed stuff, but all good stuff. So Overall, the drainage design has been approved by the comments that were made by Alan and Major. And just as a side note, one of the comments that was made by planning board, and that's gonna happen this week, was across the street, as you know, there's, and basically the same use that's being used across the street on Vitz Way. We are doing a stormwater inspection for that, and we're doing some pumping of the catch basins and area drains, getting rid of the water that's in there and the sediment that's in there, and providing the planning board with a stormwater inspection report. So that's something that I wanted to let the board know, the commission know that that was underway for the site across the street as well.
Before you go on,
Sure.
would you clarify what you just said? You're going to do some,
Yep. So the planning board asked us, because this is basically the same use as the use that's across the street currently existing on Vitz Way, they asked us to provide some stormwater maintenance to the facility that's across the street. So we went out there and did some inspections. There was, because of the rain we've been having in September, essentially, a lot of the catch basins and the area drains were filled with water. So in order to find out what's in there for sediment, we had to have those pumped. So we have ordered the pumping that's actually gonna happen tomorrow. We'll go back on Thursday to inspect all the catch basins and the yard drains to make sure that, or the area drains to make sure that there's no sediment left in there. We have a report that's, 75% complete. We'll complete that report and provide that to the planning board so that we can say that we've inspected the property across the street, so.
So where's all the sediment come from?
Sanding of parking lots during the wintertime.
How long has this been checked? I mean, when was the last time it's been checked?
It hasn't been. This project, I believe, was built in 2015, so it's been 2 or 3 years. So it was due.
Isn't that part of a
question. In your review of that, did you review the stormwater pollution prevention plan?
We did not.
So all these projects from, I don't know how far back now, but many years now, have required, as part of the notice of intent, a stormwater pollution prevention plan with all these maintenance schedules and requirements. And apparently, they're not maintaining it. I don't want you to have to speak about that, but.
Apparently, it hasn't been maintained, so we don't have them.
So I believe that with the stormwater bylaw that's now starting to be used, and especially after filing the notice of intent with the EPA, they're gonna make us, hold us to making sure we do this. That on a project, which is this one, we'll have one, the one that just, we heard from Larry, they all have drainage maintenance agreements that will get
Right.
recorded between the town and the owner of the land. And it will require them to hold to it instead of just giving a piece of paper and not looking at it ever again. And it has an enforcement with it, and it also has the ability to have someone go in there on behalf of the Stormwater Authority, being you, the commission, or the town if it has to go out as a DPW and do something, and charge the owner for not doing the maintenance. So it's two things goes on, the enforcement, which could be monetary penalties, and then also putting a lien on the property if they're not keeping up with it, so.
Does the maintenance, what's the requirement for the maintenance?
Whatever they put into their
What's the time though, I mean? Time.
writing, it will be part of the agreement. So
Oh,
it
okay.
incorporates what they promised they're gonna do, that a lot of them never did. This will hold them to it, so that it's just not paper pushing. So we'll see how it goes, but it was interesting to hear that what you've been doing, and I think it was a good idea from the planning board to, since it's side by side, and get an idea of how it's working, because I know it's not the same project, but it's similar, where you're putting stuff underground, and some of it underground, some of it in basins, which they didn't have as many basins on theirs, if I remember right.
Yeah, theirs is, I believe, 100% underground, all infiltration chambers.
Which if there's that much sediment in the catch basins,
And then it was going
you gotta
through-
hope they're gonna maintain the rest of it as well, so that doesn't get plugged up along the,
Apparently it hasn't been, not,
yet.
But that falls under the planning board? I would have thought it might fall under
Well, the planning board requested them to do
stormwater
it,
management. Yeah.
but from going forward, because of the bylaw,
Yeah.
it's gonna fall under the
Okay,
stormwater.
I got you.
But the planning board thankfully caught it and said, hey, how about taking a
I'll
look?
let you catch it, someone.
So now,
Is there a plan in place?
Now, now
I was just
that I
gonna
think
say
about it, we issued an order of conditions for the one
Right.
across the street.
Yeah.
I don't believe they've ever asked for a certificate of compliance, so theoretically, we still have a jurisdiction in it. So
Mm.
maybe we should look into it as well, so I'll make a note of that.
All right.
One of the problems is that the owner of the land is different than the user of the land because it's being leased.
Okay.
So it's hard to hold the leasee,
Yeah,
I guess is who it is, to doing anything because it's really, everything is directed to the lessor,
yeah.
the owner of the property. So I think we have to come up with ways to deal with something like this and another twist that we have to look at.
I know the, was it Shawmut people
Yes,
had some concerns. He been
yeah, I've been in
sort of
contact
been
with them.
alleviated and,
I gave them an update and told them that when we have the report from our 53G, we'll send it to them along with the plans, and they can come into the meeting where that can be discussed.
Nice.
So I think
Yeah.
probably the next meeting,
okay.
because I think it's getting that close, don't you?
Ready
Did
to
you get a
roll
sense
here?
from Alan and Major?
I did. The general sense was that he didn't get a chance to look at the plans quite yet, but he didn't think, even based on the original letter that he sent out, he thought it was sort of minor in nature. There's nothing.
Housekeeping type stuff?
And maybe I'm repeating myself, but keep in mind, this has been reviewed by HML Associates and approved by the planning board, so the fact that we have two different review engineers.
How many cars do you think over there?
I do have the number on the plans. I don't have it on the top of my head, but I can get it for you if
It's
you
an
want.
advantage to the,
It's over 600, I believe.
Is it?
Yeah, it's a good
that's
amount.
fine. Yeah.
Be great if it was all excise tax to
Taxes for the town, but it's not.
I was told it was.
But there, a lot of them are registered out of state, so.
Is that what it is? Yeah.
You resolved the floodplain thing yet?
No, it's interesting you bring that up. We were talking about that today. So, over on this side of the property, there's an existing building on Vitz Way. I believe it's number 2, the only building on Vitz Way, but as a matter of fact, the first one on the left-hand side. Behind that property, there's a small parking area, and we were proposing to build phase 2, which is basically, a small section of parking compared to the rest of it, over in this area.
Mhm.
But this line right here is a FEMA floodplain line, so we're actually in the floodplain on that particular lot. The floodplain that's shown on the FEMA maps is in error. It's not correct elevation. So we need to do a letter of map amendment with FEMA to
Mhm.
basically have that property removed. So the elevation is approximately 75. We're way above that elevation. Well, we're not way above it. It's 75, 78 around that elevation. So that'll take probably 90 days to resolve that. So I think what's going to happen here is that we're going to have phase 1 start construction, and phase 2 will happen probably later on in the springtime.
So your feeling is that phase 1 could be built because you're not in it, and phase 2, if FEMA doesn't agree, you can do something different, maybe with phase 2, or not build it at all?
I think based on what we found we've worked on properties in the area, across the street, across Center Street? No, I'm sorry, West Street. We've also worked on the Newton property to the west. So based on what we've seen for surrounding properties, that is definitely an error in the map. And a lot of the FEMA maps, as you know, somebody from Texas draws a line on a plan. It's not following a contour or an elevation, it's just a line on a plan.
Right.
Oftentimes, those maps aren't correct per elevation. So we have confidence that they'll amend that map. If not, to your point, we'll have to do something different for phase 2.
Okay.
We're hopeful.
All right,
All right,
I'd
nothing
recommend
else?
continuing until we get our
To the
report.
16th. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to continue to the 16th.
Motion to continue?
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
All righty.
Thank you.
Done.
soils are going down.
Right here.
Okay. The gentleman in the audience.
Yeah, become a regular around here. Everything that's going on in town.
There's an empty seat here.
He's the abutter to 153.
Right.
Scotland Street.
Right, right.
How'd you make out with the 5.5 inches of rain the other day?
A lot of water out there. Mow about half the lawn.
And I've got pictures of it ponded up between his property and 153.
How did we end the last meeting? I mean, what
The
was-
property owner was supposed to be going back to
Yep.
get
So,
some engineering done.
so they,
That's right, the wetland line.
they're having the same issue that almost everybody we hear, that the engineers are not getting, they're so busy, they're not getting out right away.
Yeah.
And so they asked me to go out and discuss with them where I felt the wetland line was in general.
Yeah.
And I'd been out there prior to this gentleman that now owns it. Before, he was a tenant, and I was out there on behalf of the next door neighbor, not this one, but the other side, to take a look at what was going on out there. And they haven't encroached on the wetland line that was back of the lot. So using that, I told them anything within 100 feet of that was within the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission, and I said, you're gonna have to file. The fact that it was a lawn and already being used as a lawn and a chicken coop and that kind of thing, all they're doing is putting down fill and then loom on top of it, not yet, but we'll be putting loom on it to bring up the grade. And I was wondering if the commission feels that they could file a request for determination rather than a notice of intent, which requires the engineers to get involved because they have to do a site plan with topography and all of that. So if the commission feels that it's not the correct way to go, then we can give them the word to do a notice of intent with engineered plans. What they were gonna provide is a plan, as-built plan that they have on file with measurements of where the edge of the fill is nowadays, and then I can go out and verify it. And
How close to the 50 foot is the fill that's been put in?
I would say it's probably within 30 feet of the wetland. So they probably encroached, well, it's irregular. In some places, it's probably close to 50 feet away, and then others, it's probably closer to maybe 25 feet. But again, it's all in the lawn that was out there before. Everybody mows right to the back. And and then also, I told them, you're definitely within the threshold of the stormwater bylaw, which means you're gonna have to file with the stormwater. So they have a application for that, and I gave them the request for determination form to fill out. But I can always tell them, if the commission doesn't agree with that and you want a notice of intent, I'll just tell them to come back and get a notice of intent form. But in the meantime, to try to address his problem, I had suggested that their work, however they file it, is gonna have to include trying to grade the property, both properties, as long as this gentleman's willing to let them do that, so that the water flows to the back of the lot. And I don't know if this is true, but it was claimed at the site that water always collected there.
Well, on his side, yeah.
On his side.
I've never, ever gotten water in the fall.
Okay, so they,
Springtime, it's moist, but.
so apparently it's been pushed
No.
over to your side. So if you're willing to allow them to do it, they said they would do that. But again, we can't permit something on someone else's land, and that someone else would be you. So it's up to you whether you want to have that happen, or I think it's probably, based on what I was looking at, if they leveled that off, your land continues to rise the more you go south or to the left as you're facing from the street.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't pond there anymore, it would go out to the back. So that kind of idea, taking care of the water problem, would benefit him, or if he doesn't want to do it, they're going to have to,
I mean, how are these lots designed? I mean, why didn't they put more fill in the back and make it higher to begin with? Or was there a reason that they were designed to be the way they are?
I think all the, and you can correct me on your septic system, is it in the front?
Correct, yeah.
So these houses are built like maybe at grade, and then the fill put in front,
Yeah.
the septic was built,
Do you have a walkout?
Yes.
and this one
So
at
does he.
153 does as well.
So,
So they probably didn't do any proposed grading, and they just left it, and then
so
they
we
found
did,
later on that they've got wet backyards, like Lee said, that it was a
And
wetland to
They're
start
only gonna
with.
get wetter with Mother Nature the way she is.
yeah, but when you alter it though, it's screws
It makes it
around
worse.
the whole,
It's pushing the problem onto somebody else and pushing it
Yeah,
onto somebody
so
else and
for,
keeps cascading it.
Well, right now, the way it's graded, it not only goes towards the back, but it rolls off to his
Right.
lot, and it's shedding water over to his lot.
How about the other side, same?
The other side, there's a definite swale, and so there's no ponding whatsoever. I checked and got pictures of that, so that,
How
that was.
about a berm?
Well, yeah, they could do a berm, but I still think he's got a low
It's on.
spot there that needs to get the water out of there.
so
So they'd
basically all
have
the
to dump
stuff.
fill on his land and,
Yeah, they would
Grade
have
it.
to put fill onto his land, blend it into his backyard, and slope it so that it goes to the back.
and reseed it. And
So he's basically getting what he wants. You put all that fill in there.
No, I mean, it's up to the commission.
How far
It was up to
back,
me, I'd like to see
and it
how
was all the
taken out.
debris, because the pictures I had it pretty much pushed into the end of the property, all the stumps and rocks and. Has that all been cleaned up? 'Cause, I mean,
Must have been cleaned up, because I didn't notice that, but things grow up real thick.
I mean,
But
that's
you
the-
had no problem prior to this.
No, in the spring, it would be
But I mean,
wet
nothing.
out there. I've never had.
But
I've
you've been there how
for
long?
8 years, I've never had any.
Yeah.
You've never had
I've never had water
ponding
in the
water.
fall. There is standing water that was on his side that he has now raised, and
Yeah.
that's where it's coming over to
But
my
how
side.
long
Maybe
you-
a little bit, it would come into my side.
How long have you been there?
I've been there since 2010.
So I mean,
Mark,
you
8
you know
years.
what to expect. You did, and you never had a problem with what?
Not like it is now.
No.
Yeah, he sent me pictures, and I've got even the pictures from the other day, it still have it, and
It's still.
that was
it's still
before it rained.
on there.
And so now it's probably even worse.
So if we were to tell them to take all the fill out, would that be something that could possibly be done or no?
Well, it could be, but what I
Would it
what I
just-
need to try to get a handle on is,
Yeah.
do we have a justification for it?
Well, he didn't have any justification to bring everything in though either.
Well, yes, you're right, he did it without a permit. Would you have permitted it if?
Not without understanding the
No.
runoff.
That was
No,
some
without-
engineering,
no,
and
without-
making
yeah,
sure it wasn't
exactly,
going
without
onto
some
the
engineering.
neighbor's property.
Right.
So if
I
we,
mean-
Are your concerns that if we delay the seeding and the looming, that we'll have a bigger problem, or?
no, because I think it's really too late, so I think
Okay.
they're gonna have to seed and loam and seed it in the
Okay.
spring. And in the meantime, put erosion control barriers in to protect
have-
it,
okay.
protect
I
him
mean,
and the
the-
wetlands.
Drainage swale to the opposite abutter from his, that looks like it's all just draining into a gully between the two.
Yep, it's running from the street all the way back, with no evidence of ponding, but you can see it runs. You can
But it
actually
looks like
see the.
he graded right to the property line.
Yep.
Which means the water from that side he's putting onto the neighbor's portion of that swale, which originally was at a lower point than it is now. So he's
If,
got to at least,
if we know where the lot line is.
right, which is why we need some plans,
Okay.
I would think, that would show where that is, so that that water is not going anywhere. I mean, there's at least, I'm guessing anywhere from 12 inches to maybe 6 feet of fill on that slope.
Really?
On the other butters?
The other abutter's
Oh,
side.
definitely,
And I mean,
definitely.
that water
6
can't,
feet?
even if it's, well, I mean,
You go by it? Have you gone by it?
yeah,
Oh,
I mean,
gotta-
this
I
6,
gotta go
yeah,
out there.
yeah, it's 12 inches to 6
Really?
plus feet
Wow.
in a elevated,
He's probably
Yeah, there was a
stuff.
wide swale before.
Wow.
And
right,
it's-
but the
now
swale was
it's-
much
it's-
lower, and it
yeah.
looked like a lot of the water was on
and it's
his
not-
property, and now he's brought it up enough so it, depending where that line is,
Mm,
you get 5.5 inches of rain like we did the other day, and
yeah.
that whole area is,
Yeah.
it's not gonna stay, it's gonna drain, but
So did your, back when it first happened, and I was on vacation, did you see the actual stumps and everything in the back?
yeah, they were all at the far end.
There
As
are
you looked at the
still
property to the
They get
right-hand
pushed in.
side, they looked like they had
Still
just,
somewhat, because after you guys had mentioned it last time, and I didn't really think anything of it, you had asked him when he put it, and I was pointing it up to my wife just yesterday, that there's just some cut trees and they're stacked up over there, and kind of stacked over behind the chicken coop.
yeah, it was to the right of the chicken
The chicken
coop.
coop is fairly new as well, that's 8 months old, he built that himself. I guess kind of the problem is that a lot of this work that he's doing, he does on his own, so nothing's really.
So he's no
And that would
permits.
be my only concern with what you're saying about grading onto my, like, if that's gonna solve the problem, you guys would know better than I would, I don't know, you know, that's why I
You
come
would
here,
have to
because I
provide
don't
the
really know.
engineering,
But
yeah.
he does a lot of the work himself, which is kind of would be my concern, would it be someone that would, you know, would there be somebody
Who knows how to shoot a
professionally doing it?
grade and how to make
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
level and how to
because
install
Everything
it.
that he's done has kind of been like this.
I thought he had someone doing it, but I guess
he
not.
told you.
He also, I found out, he didn't live there, he's
He
rented.
just bought the house in
He
March.
just bought it.
correct.
Mm.
And he told
So
you guys he
obviously
did it in
now that
June.
he owns it, he wants to do
I have pictures of
something.
them running that bulldozer August 25th.
So now that he owns a house, he wants to do something with it.
Correct. That's
Are
when
you
all-
getting any water in your house? No.
No, I mean, where the water is, it's far enough back away from my house that it's just in the,
Still though, it's your property.
correct.
Oh, right, but it's no threat to the building, yeah.
So I'm gonna have to go back out and check to see if those stumps are there, cause I didn't.
There's like
I didn't-
trees and
I didn't
like
see 'em.
cut trees from the side, because he had cut some stuff from that, not my side, and I don't know exactly what he did, I couldn't tell you everything he did with it.
Where did
There
the
was a lot
stumps
of
come from?
trees that were over there.
Towards the
he had
road,
cut a lot
towards the
of.
front.
There was
Oh,
like
yeah?
a brush line, not a brush, a shrub,
Yeah.
tree, sapling line
Yeah, there
between the
was-
two neighbors on, opposite from him.
Opposite.
Now, he put fill in the front too, right?
Yeah, from the road almost all the way
But
down.
it's not affecting anything in the,
Well, it was always pitched to drain from the road back,
yes.
but my question, John, would be on the right-hand side in the back where it all drains. Again, on that side, it's draining it into the abutter's property, which is more of a wetland already. It kind of jogs, I think, up.
Yeah, this, I don't know if everybody can see it, but, I don't know, is it something that you can see? So this is the subject property right here. And you can see he's got like a road, cart road, all the way out to the outbuildings that he had. He had, you say he just built something,
The chicken coop is, I would say, 8 months.
but there were some sheds or something out there when I went out there earlier this year. And then you could see the tree line
Mhm.
running in this
Yeah.
area.
Right.
Well, my screen's dusty. I gotta
You
clean
can
it.
see it
Looks
on
like you
here.
wash it with peanut butter.
Yeah.
So this area.
So those,
Yeah.
the chicken coop and everything like that he built, is that in the
I mean, it's still
wetland
all of
area?
this,
So that,
all the way along.
no, well,
there used
see
to
what
be
Tim
trees
is
up in
referring
here,
to is,
and
we've
that's
got
what
this
he
tree
cut
line
down,
on the
pushed to the
butter to
back.
the other side.
Mhm.
And
That was all his.
they stopped here, but everybody
the edge
else from that point, from this point on.
Right here.
South,
Yeah.
cut
And so
way
all
back
that
into here.
slope.
And it's definitely wet. It's like
put it
the
all over here, all the.
highway fence.
Yeah, we were talking about that last time.
And this just
How you
kind
just
of
kinda
ends
like
up into a
further
wetland
out.
area along.
Which is
the highway.
grass, they didn't bring anything filling, which is not right,
I
but
guess
it's
it's
better
big
than
enough to take the water, but.
doing
But
what
you
he
can
did
tell, and I'd be
before.
curious
I
to
can
look at the
understand that
historical
part, but
pictures.
It seems like
But the tree
almost
line went
everybody's
from
gone,
here.
almost
Yeah.
all the way to the state
Right like
highway
that.
fence
Yeah.
that, you know, they
So
always
I'm
have a
curious if all
wildlife
these
stock
houses
fence
have
Yep.
slowly been
along
making their lawns
the edge of
bigger.
the layout of the.
I mean, it
Route
just seems
24.
odd that this.
And then
all of a
there's
sudden
always
juts
a
back like
How
wet
old are
drain
those now?
swale
Yeah.
along the edge of the highway.
for
12,
highway,
15
yeah.
years.
And that's the actual wetland out
They
there.
weren't on the
Now,
board then.
No.
yeah, the
this
back of those
predates
lots
me,
get
so I've
water
never-
Yeah,
in
it
it,
is
so
strange.
probably
But it
one,
just-
one
Yeah.
time
It is.
You know,
before all
that-
this was developed, it was wet.
5 years down the road, they're
I
creating
mean,
wetlands,
all
so
of
it's
these
gonna be
houses were built the same time.
wetlands in the
So why
future.
are these got bigger backyards? than
That's right,
I
yeah.
mean, it just,
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, I'd hate to see it loomed and seeded for what he did, but if nothing else is gonna be able to get done, I'd like to see some kind of engineering being done to help grade it and at least help out the next door neighbors, other than the other neighbors selling their house. So that's,
yeah, I mean, and again, the neighbor on the other side was the one who called, and when John was on vacation, I went down because she was concerned, once we got heavy rains, where all that water, yes, hers is elevated high enough, it's not going to, but where's it all gonna end up? I mean, is it gonna
Right
drain
now, it is
properly from the
definitely going
front
to the back.
to the back? And if it's going to the back of her property, which she was under the assumption that everything from the tree line back was a wetland area on her property, it's just gonna make this area that much wetter. And he really shouldn't be, without some engineering, figuring out where all that water that's now going. Because before, my guess is it went down the property line and then behind the chicken coop
yeah.
Yeah.
in that way. And now he's kind of preventing it from going that way. It's going all to the north instead of to the south. Or if it does go to the south, it has to go all the way out behind his chicken coop and then through the wooded area and down. Where before it just went right across. And
Mm.
I mean, there's a lot
And
of rain coming
flowed.
down now.
So what's, I guess I'm not clear on what our jurisdiction might be.
So he did this to prevent water from his own
Yeah,
yard or house?
to help
or-
it better for himself.
Yeah. So was he getting?
Is there a
water?
little pool or ponding area out in the tree line behind your
Building
house?
permit?
He
I
dug
know
a
it.
hole up there,
Yeah.
on the highway side. He did
Well,
that
right
about-
now
It's right kind of on the
he
corner of the
did that
property?
about 3
Yeah.
years
He's
ago.
not getting,
He
I
has
doubt he's
equipment
getting
and
any
stuff in
water.
there. If you
Yeah.
guys ever
Yeah.
drive by there,
Now
there's
they-
a lot
Because
of
that,
water.
when I saw that on the
So why
satellites,
did
I
he
was thinking
wanna
it was
delay
a
the
possible
engineer?
vernal
Why did he
pool
not
or a
want
He
to-
dug
pond
that
or,
himself.
Part of it,
When
just
he first
cost or
moved in,
time and-
his
think-
lawn
I
didn't
think
go
he
up
did it
that far,
himself,
so
because
when
he
he
can
first
do it.
moved in renting it,
Just like me
Father's
going
Day,
out
I was
behind
out
my
to
house, I got
breakfast
the
with my
tractor, so.
Yeah.
kids,
Right.
and we got
I'll
home.
do it if I can do
He
it.
was running a
Yeah.
bobcat out there, so I went out there,
Right.
You're
introduced
affecting
myself.
somebody else.
There
though,
used to
on
be
the side. So
a
that's
swell
a
there.
red flag.
Everything
Yeah.
kind of ran in from both sides and ran out to the back. And I explained that to him. He was out there on a bobcat. And he said, no, I have all my own equipment. If there's ever a problem, I'm gonna dig this up. I'm gonna put stone in. He's never done anything. But he went on the highway side and dug a big hole out there for whatever reason. I have no idea. They're just ponds now. Probably grows mosquitoes. I mean,
Is this,
It's all wet.
can you take a look at this?
John.
Right.
I think I got it up.
yeah,
Is that it, right there?
that's it. Yeah, he did that.
yeah.
He went out there and dug that.
Yep.
Because I
He's
saw him
dug
out
the
there
whole
digging
fall
it one
water
day.
Yeah,
I said,
yeah.
What is this guy
So
doing?
like you said,
And it's
now
on the
it's gonna
highway
create
side,
some
so
kind of-
his fence
Is
is
that
down
in the
over here.
wetlands?
And if you look at the original tree line,
Oh,
it just made me
yeah.
question it.
He's making a pond.
Yeah.
So I don't know why he did it, because it didn't,
That's the pond.
nothing runs into
Yeah.
it.
And my question.
He just
That
dug
was
a hole
his,
through
that
it.
was
I
his
wasn't
thinking.
here.
Does
I
the
don't know.
grading
But
go
this
back
tree
that way?
line,
Was his
it
goal to
looks like it
run
went
the
from
water
here
that
to
way?
here.
What,
Now, did
what
all
was
these
this stuff
houses
here?
Get permitted for that, or do they just all of a sudden make their yards
Yeah.
bigger in the back?
What is that?
Which, okay, I
So
can
this is your
understand that
house,
it's
that's his
wrong,
house,
but
this is,
it's not-
looks like
at least
it's
it's not
kind
There
of,
was a shed here.
We've had
Oh,
people
okay.
mow into the wetland and leave,
Oh, yeah.
leave it that way.
Right.
that was your
So
shed?
it is.
And do
So you
that,
can see how
create
wet
a-
it
And then
is
create a
right there.
pond
Mm.
where you,
Well, the water
So it was
goes
all
in, it's not-
draining.
yeah, he's
Yeah.
creating a
Down into
wetland, so
there.
now you
What
gotta
time-
stay
that's gotta be what,
400 feet
winter?
from that.
What is that, what
This,
is that,
this
winter?
was,
5 years.
April
Yeah.
of
It's
this
not-
year.
It's already here, it's all gonna be
Yeah.
wet. It's gonna be all wet.
Yeah, in the
For sure.
spring it always kind of, like I said, got wet. Never in the fall have I had water like that.
I mean, theoretically, John, if he's created that pond there, now he has to stay 100 100 feet from the high water table of that
For the
pond that
water.
he's created.
It's for all
I
the
mean,
water
it's-
comes off,
The drain-
so it goes
oh.
down into it.
Which is putting it, looks like right on the property
I was gonna say
line.
it's gonna run right on the highway.
Yeah. And there's water that comes off the highway.
And to be honest with you, I don't know where my property line is. I try to look at my plans, but it's hard to tell.
Right,
I
right.
mean,
Maybe somewhere marked.
he doesn't, when he was in this meeting last week, he just said, oh, I went to wherever I mowed to. I mean, none of us know.
Right, it's
I don't
all a
know.
grass
I have
field.
to go and
It's-
have someone,
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know where it is. He could be well over, or,
Do we know where the wetland man? Well,
Well,
we were trying to establish that.
'Cause I think John's figured that it's right about like this.
I'm pretty confident that the way the botanist would handle this is right along the tree line is where they hang their flags.
But looking at, if you zoom out a little bit, if you go from the lot next door to his and go 1, 2, 3, 4 house lots further down, so southerly,
It
And look at the
bumps
tree
back
line.
out again?
Yeah.
look at the original tree line.
Yeah.
I'm just questioning, okay, where was the original tree line when these houses were all permitted?
You could draw a straight line.
Yeah. And where was the wetland line originally? If there's that much water that's ponding and going to this spot on a wet season, I mean, I'm just questioning that wetland line. And really, was it that far, is it the tree line, or is it 30 feet the other way if you go by soils and start looking what wasn't disturbed?
Probably.
I've got a Google image from 2000. When did you say he dug that pond?
say, 2 years ago, maybe, 3 years ago, maybe, I'm not sure.
So 2015, that pond doesn't show
I
up.
don't see it, yeah.
Right.
I believe they moved in, 4 years ago, and I would say,
How big?
after being there for maybe 2 years.
The pond?
And
Bigger
then
than
when
his
you
chicken
go
coop.
to,
That's his chicken coop, and that's the pond.
when you go to June of 2015, there's no chicken coops there,
Hmm.
The chicken coop was within a year.
and it seems as if
I don't see it.
the yard didn't go back as far as it's going right now.
Right. Wouldn't the soils be the same though?
Well, if they disturbed them
Yeah.
by bulldozing them. It's hard to get a fix on, oh, that's before the house, well, that was probably when the house was being built. Oh, look at that. Oop, stop. I don't know if you can see it from that distance, but right where the hand is
Yeah.
vegetation that looks like shrubs,
Mm.
not lawn.
Yeah.
And I don't mean shrubs like yews and euonymus and that kind of stuff. I'm talking about, it looks like it's meadow-type shrubs. So they didn't go back that far. Matter of fact, it looks like it was about, by estimation, 50 feet behind the house. Was all shrub.
So what's that tell you?
So little by little, the encroachment's been occurring in that neighborhood.
Yes.
So I think some of the things that we need to consider is, where are the property lines? I think that's important to know, I guess, at this point, since he doesn't know where his is. They said they had some as-built plans, which would define where that property line is approximately.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if that's sufficient for what you're looking for, so I would say that the only way to resolve some of these questions that come up is to have it engineered, so that
Yeah.
you might want to make sure that everything that was filled is more than 50 feet back, and kind of in your way of doing things, you don't like to have new construction, which is fill, basically is new construction, in the 50-foot buffer. You could leave it natural if it was natural, but. So I-
Otherwise, we're sort of saying if you can go ahead and fill your backyard and we'll back into it and see what we can do to help you
to help you out of the
Yeah.
mess.
Yeah.
As long as he's not causing problems for
I'm
anybody
doing mine
else.
tomorrow.
Well, there's the answer. We need it engineered to some extent, figure out.
So I'm getting the sense that an engineered plan, make sure that the fill that stays, if you permit it, is more than 50 feet away from the wetland. And that an engineer.
And any
deals-
drainage isn't encroaching on a neighbor's property.
Right.
If they want to come up with a plan and a deal with the neighbors to alleviate grading or whatever, then that's something they can do outside of what he has to do to his property, but
Right.
I think an engineer would be the one to tell him how much and what and where he needs to do something.
Where is the pond? Do you think the pond's up within the 50?
I think the pond is on the state, as
It's on the highway.
it's
Might even be
on the
state
highway,
property.
Yeah,
It's on the
it's-
highway, definitely on the highway.
Yikes.
which I'm sure they didn't have any knowledge about.
No, no. All right, so we're gonna proceed with
Which if we
some-
were to certify that as a vernal pool and find out if it was, that makes it a 200-foot radius, correct?
Maybe you could get.
I mean, I'm just, if he,
You can go either way.
yeah,
So what would
I
the
mean,
state do? What would the state do if we brought that to their attention? Could they do it?
I can only guess. They
especially with the stormwater
they have to
requirements.
approve certain cutting for those billboard signs.
Yeah.
True.
So, I mean,
Right.
if they're gonna have to get a permit to do that kind of stuff, if you're gonna dig a hole and make a pond on the state highway layout, I'm sure that'd be a very tough thing to get approved by the,
Yeah.
Maybe you could get an eagle to miss it, then it's 500 radius.
so I've got down that engineered plans are needed for property line assurances or determinations, and then drainage, straighten out the drainage problems.
Plan would show the drainage.
Are there any markers there? For wetland markers? Can we get any of
Wetland, you
those?
mean? I don't think so.
Okay. All right. So, how about outside the jurisdiction, under the stormwater, how do you wanna handle that?
Call the state.
Well, it is
Well,
our
I think now that we
jurisdiction,
know about
right?
it, we really have no choice but to notify who needs to know. I mean, because we know. I mean, I don't think, you know, if that causes some eroding on the highway or some issue, I don't think I would want to be responsible for letting something like that go.
Hmm.
At this point, we can't allow, well, I assume we wouldn't be allowing it to be filled in and make it go away.
Right. I mean, unless, you know, but it's there, we know about it, and it could cause a problem that we aren't, that we are unaware of, so, I think.
Might come back and
Yeah.
bite
I don't,
us.
he isn't gonna
Exactly.
seed
I mean,
it,
we hear,
is
we're talking about it, and we do
he?
nothing
I
about
think
it.
that could be a
It's
waste of
uncovered.
money if
Right.
it
Yeah,
is
at
to
this
come
time,
up.
yeah.
I can't, I would not
No.
be comfortable with that.
All right, so I'll inform them of what they need to do, give them a list, and that way it's not misinterpreted
Yeah,
in writing.
okay.
And hopefully we can get this resolved before we get spring rains.
Spring rain, what about that?
Otherwise, you'll have ducks.
I'm afraid my geeks are gonna go home.
Well, as long as the house isn't.
Right, as long as the basin's
Yeah.
not getting any,
Oh. Then we're gonna
Take
have
care of the backyard.
frost, freezing the ground, if we get heavy rains, snow melt.
Yeah, it's definitely, it won't be finalized this season.
yeah, I mean,
No,
you're not
we're
gonna get
getting
anything
into winter,
established.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, that makes sense to me.
Alrighty, at some point, you'll probably be getting notification via certified mail that there's a public hearing.
Okay.
Do you feel comfortable? Do you feel like it was addressed for you?
Yeah, I mean, and John's been a great help,
Good.
keeping in contact too, so,
Yes,
Alright.
good.
thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome. All right.
Can't get out. I can't get back on the phone, what did I do? Put a dock in
You
the car.
gotta kick the tires.
Go to Dawson, this comes up.
All right, so much for getting out of here
Mm-hmm.
early. We might as well go back to our wetland protection bylaw
Mhm.
fee schedule. I will entertain a motion to reconvene the public hearing.
Motion to reconvene?
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. All right. We have, I believe, everybody in their packet, a fee schedule of where we're at, where some other towns are at, what we were charging and what was on our town website. And this is the time to make it all right.
So at a minimum, the recommendation would be to vote for some set of numbers for each one of those categories at this meeting so that we can then notify the town clerk that these are the official fees adopted at a properly advertised public hearing and so voted by the commission. And then that takes care of any discrepancies that appear from different copies that are floating around the town hall.
Mhm.
And then the other things that we should consider, do we want to align ourselves with some of the other towns that are charging more for some of these things, or do we want to stay pretty much the way we were and just make them correct? I think the items in blue that Kitty had put down indicated a slight increase on a couple of those categories, but
Actually, they came out in gray because I forgot to hit the color button.
I see.
If anybody wants the blue one, I have the blue one.
Do the blue ones align us with the other towns?
No,
Those are what's on our town website.
So that's minimum,
Well, actually, that
And
has
then
been taken down too.
This one
yeah, is the other towns.
would be the other towns to take a look at.
How long have they been this?
A long time up on the website, we think.
No, how
Well,
long
we
is
haven't
it?
changed the fee schedule for
For
at
a long
least
time.
20 years.
10 years.
So I think that we should at
I mean,
least,
it's been a
Everything
long
else has
time.
gone
I
up.
mean,
that
Yeah.
would help a little bit for budget.
Yep, it puts it into the general budget.
Yeah.
These aren't going to affect the wetland protection fund, that we still get that money out of the state portion, or the state listed fees, but
Mhm.
this will go into the general budget. And obviously, as more administrative duties are put on the Conservation Commission staff, there's justification for the higher fees. But you're gonna always hear from people, I hear it occasionally right now, that you guys cost extra money for the septic repairs, for example, because of the fees involved and all that, and they're already paying a lot of money for a septic system. You hear it no matter what. It could be no fee and you're delaying it because you're making them go through a process. So, I mean, there's always somebody who's gonna complain.
Sure.
So I think they also that make those complaints work in other towns, and they know what other towns are charging. So it's not like we're the only ones.
And plus, we haven't changed anything for 20 years, so I mean, that alone,
I
It's
think
time,
it could be 10 years,
even 10.
yeah, because with the
Those
previous
prices
board, there
aren't the
was some
same.
going around with it, the Howard and some of the people that were on the board then. So say at least
Isn't it?
at 12 years, because
I
I
don't see,
think that
yeah,
one
I
had.
mean, $25
I mean, it
here
predates
and
me.
there.
I mean, it predates me.
I mean,
know,
I don't
that's
think I
19th
remember.
century.
I mean, basically, like the $2 square foot,
That's all I remember.
the delineation
Yeah.
fee, I mean, we could change that up and down whatever we want. If we wanna go to $1, we could, $2 to, you know. I mean, I don't see why, but
I mean, I'm just looking at some of these other towns for determination of applicability, and I mean,
They had different categories that were really.
right, but I mean, we're
low.
lower than all of them across the board.
Canton.
some of those communities, I think, might have been larger.
Yeah,
With a
true.
different tax base
Yeah.
too.
Right.
But even still,
Larger in population and.
So in Rehoboth, they do a family versus commercial, and we do something different for commercial, don't we? Cause isn't that, but didn't we have some kind of to-do with a guy that was too high? He wanted some kind of waiver.
That was a certificate of compliance.
That was how it
is
was.
that what that was? But I mean, we could do that if we wanted to. Right?
I mean, it makes
Mhm.
sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's where the regulation, the bylaw gives you, under the regulations, the right to set the fees.
Yeah.
I mean, the rationale behind that is that you have a family and that, the income is pretty much the same, when you have the business up or down.
Which
They're gonna
only
make
makes
money
sense.
with
Which
the
only makes
town.
sense.
And the thing is,
and
they can-
infrastructure and.
They can always ask for a waiver.
Yeah.
Of
and
any
if
of
we
the fees at
decide-
any
yeah,
time.
if we decide,
And we
or
can
to-
grant that waiver.
Or to lower it, or
Hardship.
whatever.
I mean,
Yeah.
we cannot increase the fees without another public hearing.
Right.
We can
Yeah.
always cut the fees in half. We can
Yeah.
always make them go away totally. We have that discretion.
We can't increase the
But we
fees.
cannot increase without a public hearing.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is what we're
Which we're doing now.
Yeah.
So we'd have to go through the public notifications, putting it in the
Right.
paper, putting it all online, the whole thing again, when we want to go up with fees.
Mhm.
But then will we have to define
What are
what
we
the waiver
doing
would
now?
be?
But we can
Hardship.
always grant a waiver to
Right.
cut it in half if there's a hardship or there's a reason why they,
And we've done that before.
and we've done that.
Mhm.
I mean, there's precedence for that.
That's- Yeah.
So
that's-
I can remember
yeah.
North
I mean,
Elm
I'd rather have the fee there
Lady
and have somebody
widow.
ask
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
for a
totally,
hardship
yeah.
than be stuck saying, oh, we can't increase
No, the
the
hardship
fees
for the-
without.
For the lady.
So we need
People-
another
now, because
public
the
hearing to.
business-
Engineering
Yeah.
company.
No, if we
or
were
anything
to,
that's
we're doing it
like-
now.
Right.
That's the public
Somebody-
hearing we're here
Yeah.
for tonight,
Always
is to
asks
raise
for
them.
it.
It's not a big deal to do it,
That's the
it's
one that
just,
keeps coming.
it costs money.
Yes.
You have to advertise it in the paper.
It always comes to my head.
Because it's a public notice of intent.
We haven't done that.
We
yet.
did, we did.
We did,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, well, they gotta go up.
Right,
It's
we've,
just a matter of
yeah, I mean, it's needed to be
what.
done.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of how much do we want to go up.
So just to give you an idea, category 1
Right.
is usually the septic repairs.
Category one is your.
So that's the lowest category fee for the least amount of work. So when people say, "Oh, you cost us a lot of money," you could leave that alone because that's pretty much small things like septics, maybe a garage or a small addition. Those were the type of things in category 1. Category 2 is building a brand-new house. Usually developers do that.
Mhm.
So they're not gonna complain, they're just gonna pass that along in the cost of the house. So
Is-
If
that's
you see
why,
the cost of the new houses in
Is
town.
$25 even enough? I mean,
I would say something for like,
still,
for the builders or something like that, go up a little bit more than, say, like category 1.
so category
Right.
1, you could either leave it or go up just a little bit. And
Yeah.
then category 2, you could jump it because it is developers, builders, that
And they're
type
gonna
of
make,
and these
Yeah.
other towns are, well, God,
I mean, would you,
I'd go 250 anyway.
yeah, at
Right,
least,
I
at least for
mean-
like category 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Category 3 is the same, in terms of, that's usually developers or larger projects like strip malls, commercial buildings.
550.
Yeah.
so we're looking at category 2, 250,
Yeah.
category 3, 550,
Yeah.
4,
category 4,
650.
650.
Yeah.
And what's 5?
What is, it's 5.
Extensions.
What did you do for category, the first one?
Well, that's where we're going
Um,
back to. Category 1, which would be most septic system repairs.
110?
We can leave it.
I think we should go up to like maybe 125.
Yeah, 125.
And then if we decide to, for hardship or something like that, we can,
Which a lot of times when we've been asked,
Cut
we
it
just
down a
waive them
little bit,
totally.
or
I
waive
mean,
it.
$25.
And,
is
and that's
it?
the category you would probably consider.
yeah, that
more
would
than-
be the one, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, do we want to look at the determination of applicability? I mean, that's at 50. Everybody else is 100 or
Which one
above.
is that now?
That's the first one.
Oh,
100.
Go up to
Yeah, I mean,
100.
we're at 50 and most everybody else is, 75?
Yeah,
Or, I mean,
sure. Go along with that. We haven't had, like you say, 10 years.
10+ years since the last increase on any other.
Notice of intent. What
Now,
are we
number
thinking?
5, John, we have none.
Number 5 is more categories for coastal and that kind of thing.
Okay, so
Coastal.
we wouldn't have coastal control
Not
here.
river, not riverfront or any other?
No, that comes under category 6.
Six.
All right, so leave that alone.
Which 6 we have, and that looks kind of in line with
Everyone else.
everyone else with no maximum.
Yep.
Extension permit.
Go up to 50.
50 and 100 on those?
Are you
Yeah.
writing them in on
Yeah,
yours?
I'm writing them down in the
Wait,
note.
because I
Give you
don't-
the sheet when we're done.
Yeah,
Because,
50 and 100.
I don't have the Wi-Fi ability here to pull up my own files. This is only a PC.
Yeah, 50 and 100.
Amended order of conditions.
Amended. Now, we're not talking about where somebody wants to put, let's say, a deck on the back of the house that wasn't showing up on a notice of intent plan. And they got a buyer that wanted to put a deck, and I know that doesn't usually happen, but it's just something small like that. That's usually a project change, it's not an amendment.
Right, it's a minor
But
change.
when somebody comes in like this guy tonight with going from a car wash to a,
Contractors,
whatever that thing,
contractors
contractors.
building
yeah.
or storage or,
Well, that, it shouldn't be $75.
No.
It,
I mean-
it should, and it shouldn't be a penalty to ask for an amendment, because people should be able to change their mind like this owner obviously wants to do, but it's like,
it's not a full-blown new plan and new hearing, but it still should be,
Some work has to be
there's some work going
Yeah,
into it. You
so
have to
there's more
relook at
work
everything. It's
to
not
it.
just
Yep.
a simple,
Right. And
we're changing
John
this
has to go
building
out
for that
again.
building and it's an equal to
But there's
equal.
still also some administrative
Right,
things
exactly.
that need to be done with it.
Yeah.
so, what do you think of this? It's maybe
100?
a little radical, but
Or,
whatever the original filing was,
A percentage?
you charge the same. It's like a, so if they came in with, and this won't happen, but let's say a septic system, and they were gonna put the septic system out in the back, and they decide, no, we're gonna amend this by putting it in the front, and we're gonna change the style of the system from a leach field to a alternative new technology system. Well, it probably should be the same amount as the original filing. And the same with the subdivision. They were in here tonight with Spring Commons, and for $75, they're coming in from a 6-lot subdivision to a 3-lot
Yeah.
subdivision. It's all the same, again, all over again.
But they
Why
change
not
it.
charge the
Right.
same amount?
And they're not the only ones either, so it happens, it's a frequent.
and if they want to request a hardship or a filing or tell us why they don't
What they
think
decide.
that if it's minor changes and it's going to be half as amount of work, then
How would you word it?
We can
So, same as original
same
filing
as
fee.
original filing.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I don't know, do other towns do something like that?
How often are we getting the partial certificate of compliances?
Really, there was
Really?
there was one on Merritt Street and
Not too
I think
often,
one
huh?
on Ash Street, but I don't, really.
Half
There
of
was
the
a
original.
No one
Well,
else
filing
charges
based on
anything?
exhibit.
No.
We didn't look.
I'll just leave it there.
Yeah, just leave it.
That's just
It
easy.
isn't that often.
Same as, you know.
And I would think we would be looking at going up on the certificate of compliance fee, considering that
50 and 100.
everybody else is 100.
That's the one I'm
Perfect.
thinking is more work than $25.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
That's what the administrative.
50 and 100, or do you want to go up
75
even?
and 125.
75 and 125?
Yeah.
I was thinking 100 and 150.
So what are we doing?
75 and 125?
Sounds good.
Yeah, at least.
Now, quite often, we have to charge double because a lot of people come in years later and say, oh, we never got our certificate. So those will be doubled, whatever we decide on but it maybe would also
Make them more conscientious.
make them want to get in here
Yeah.
quicker.
Yeah, I mean, like that
Yeah.
Vitz Way one.
Hmm.
They've finished one side of the street, they're already done, and we're having stormwater problems.
Yep.
Yet they've never filed.
So usually if you're using bank money to do something, they want a certificate of compliance to make sure that their money wasn't being used the wrong way. In this case here, you got Enterprise renting it from the property owner. He's not kicking in any money at all. He's just they're developing it, they're paying the fee,
Yep.
and he doesn't need to get a certificate ever. He could sell the property later on to another person who would take ownership and get the rental. But if he doesn't have to use any money, then he doesn't need the certificate either.
Yep.
Although a good attorney would say, if they were representing him for the title, he'd say, you probably want to get that certificate.
I
But
mean,
if he
I think I
doesn't,
would.
Can we get him to
Yeah.
get a
Just-
certificate before we
It's
issue
an
the permit for the
incentive.
next one?
we probably should.
I mean, I'm just throwing that one out there.
Good idea,
Continued
yeah.
public hearing, that could go on for quite a while until that certificate's done.
It's a good
Which
idea,
one?
The Vitz Way one, where
Oh,
he
yeah.
hasn't gotten the certificate on the first development, now he
Right.
wants a phase 1, phase 2 development across the street.
Yeah, I made a note to give that some some wording in the order of conditions.
Mhm.
All right.
So
Any other
Did you
questions?
stay with the 50 on the partial?
Yeah, just leave the
Yeah.
partial at 50 since.
So do we have to do each line item, or can we?
No, I'm gonna entertain a motion to accept the new fee
If
schedule.
we could just read them all again?
Yeah.
Yep, and we will start with determination of applicability will be 75. Notice of intent category 1, 125. Notice of intent category 2, 250. Notice of intent category 3, 550. Category 4 would be 650. And category 6, the abbreviated notice of resource area delineation will stay the same at $2 per foot with no maximum. Extension of permits will be 50 for a home, 100 for all others. Amended order of conditions, fee will be same as the original filing fee. Partial certificate will stay the same at 50, and a certificate of compliance will go to 75 and 125.
So I have,
I'll entertain a motion to accept those.
I'll make that motion.
second?
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
And you'll still give me your cheat sheet.
I am giving you,
When would they be effective? Immediately, huh?
I want to take a vote on that? I mean,
I'll entertain a motion to set the fee schedule effective as of tomorrow.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. That way they will have time to get it posted on the town website and make it. And that blue one has the notes on the second page.
Good catch.
10-3.
I don't know who made that catch, John.
I don't know, was it,
What was that?
the who caught that, was it the town clerk, or you and the town
No,
clerk, or the
I-
both?
I've been going through all sorts of papers and documents and trying to just reorganize
Time
and
goes
come up
by.
with- And I thought, where does that number come from? Because we had on our own thing, $200.50. It's never made sense to me. And I just happened to look on the website and it didn't say that. It said,
Mm.
it said
225.
$225. And then I realized that there were other numbers there that were different. And I had no knowledge as to when and how that was up on the website, that none of us knew. So,
That's
So-
where the 250-cent thing came from.
well, no, it wasn't $250
$250.
and 50 cents was what was on our office
Right.
list. So when there was a discrepancy and we started to ask questions and did a little background on it, then Annie took it down off the website until we could clarify it, because it needs to be part of the true attest
Yeah.
copy that
Which-
is what she was charging. And that didn't have the same change in fee schedule, so that it was some places one way, some places another, and neither John nor I have knowledge as to how it was up there that way. And at one point, we had had a different website,
Yeah, remember the
Yeah.
original, we had the intern that did most of that?
well, no, no,
But
it
the
wasn't
town-
that, it was a.
Yeah, it was a whole different
It was a
Then we
different
changed.
system, or,
program.
yeah, the,
So it could have been someone from one of the other offices that thought they were helping out. Or this could have been a draft that they ended up with at some point.
but it's a good thing to look at them and update them, and it
Sure.
made us have to do it.
Yeah.
So I think what we need to do now is, we need to have that chart updated, so she can take that,
Well, that's what I can do right here.
yeah,
Mm.
take
And then I'll
that
get
chart.
that to Annie.
In a letter with the vote of the board,
Yeah.
the date, so forth,
Yep,
and
with
in a-
everyone's height, weight,
in the
maiden
minutes.
name.
should be in the minutes.
And then maybe we could visit it regularly then, rather than.
And then we'll give it to her once the minutes are approved. Well, I don't know if you have to do the minutes. I think the letter itself,
Right, the letter and the
Yeah.
schedule itself will,
by vote of the board on this night,
the new fee schedules.
in
is-
accordance with the regulations and the bylaws, blah, blah, blah. So if you need some help putting it together, we can send it to her with that chart, and then it should be something that she could certify to. And then we can put it up on the website.
Excellent.
And we can put it up on the,
I'll play with it tomorrow, John, and run the draft by you.
Okay,
where are we?
speeding us up to get us through.
Rowdy.
We have for 90 Howard Street.
Yes,
A
that's a
re-
certificate of compliance for
Request.
septic repair. I went out and inspected it today, and it had reviewed the plans and the documents, and it all looks good, and doesn't need any bond to hold for grass growing, because the grass is growing. So I recommend issuing a certificate without a bond.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Make the motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded to issue the certificate of compliance without a bond. All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
That's 90 Howard.
Okay. And then we have 32
That's
Keith's-
32 Kenneth.
Kenneth Street.
That's big.
That one there, actually, I don't know if it would come up on your little Chromebooks, but the back of the house is the limit of their yard, and they've held right to it. It was the 50-foot buffer. They haven't encroached on that 50-foot buffer whatsoever, which is amazing. And so it was a mobile home at one time. They rebuilt, they got rid of the mobile home and built a single-family home. And it's really looking good, so I recommend issuing a certificate without a bond. No issues whatsoever with it at all.
All right, I'll entertain a motion. Issue certificate without a bond.
I'll make that motion.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Mm. 373 Crescent Street, enforcement order update.
Did you want a motion for Howard?
We got Howard.
MMSW.
Oh,
That was the first one we did. We moved quick.
all right. Good.
Stomachs are grumbling.
So which,
373 Crescent Street enforcement order update.
the engineer has had the botanist out and flagged the wetlands, and they're locating the flags and preparing the plan, and because of busy time of year, it's going slow. But they're making progress on that one.
Okay.
Alrighty, and 55 Crescent Street.
I recommend putting it on the next one. I still have to work on the wording of the conservation easement change.
Okay.
And same with the Model Airplane Club. I just gotta.
Yep, we'll put those on for the next one and just table them.
One of their members came in the other day, by the way, though, just to give you an idea of how they wanna to do good back to the town. That particular member also walks on the rail trail up across from Turner Steel. And he's alarmed at the way people just leave rubbish up there and wanted to know what we could do about it. And we discussed the fact that if you put a trash barrel up there, it fills up with household trash because people don't want to pay to have it taken away. So he wants to have the president of the club, who's a sign maker, put up a sign that says, please carry in and take and carry out, that type of sign. And I emailed Chris and asked Chris what his thoughts were and whether the town could supply the signpost once the sign was made. And he said, yes, that would be great, and that they would. And we do want to look at what the wording is going to be before it's actually done. But other than that, it seems like it's a great service that they want to provide. So they seem to be really trying to help out the town for allowing them to be
good.
there,
Yeah.
even though they will pay a lease.
We finally got the last 2 years of minutes archived, and I've given the books to Annie. It took a long time for that to be done this time, but it's done. So we're current on that.
Number 14 on your list, John, the MS4 filing is complete.
It's complete.
A lot of
Thank
work.
goodness, thank goodness. And so now, as the report indicates, we will probably get a couple of comments that we may have to clarify something or revise something minor, but I think it's in pretty good shape. And then it'll go up on the website that they have for a 30-day review by the public, and then if there's no comments, then they'll issue the authorization for us to discharge, which up to that point, we still have the authorization under the old permit, but if we hadn't filed the notice, that would have ended and we would have been in violation.
Yeah. Getting close for everyone, isn't it?
Yeah.
Great.
And number 15 on your list is the land on the southeast
Oh.
corner,
Yeah, did it?
which we have on our,
Yeah.
Does it come up?
yes, it does. Those work.
Okay, and you can enlarge it by
Which
I
one are we
think you
looking at?
can.
The Howard Street. Keep going the other, keep going that way. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. There. It's this in the next slide.
Oop.
There it is.
So, this is the piece of land that's between the apartments at the Riverbend, near the Riverbend Golf Course, and the land that goes from there to the East Street. When you drive by it, you can see a huge area of wet, which is closer to East Street, but when you get closer to the apartments, you can tell by the Google Earth that the terrain looks a little different. So the big circle is encompassing the majority of the land, and then behind the apartments, there's a little rectangular portion. You can see that's not too wet at all. And so it's, the other picture is the town assessor's map, and that gives you an idea of how the property line looks and how it connects with the golf course. So if the commission doesn't want it, maybe the town Board of Selectmen might want it to add it to the golf course land,
Right, so realistically, at this point, it's non-buildable.
non-buildable,
It connects to other property the town already owns.
right?
Taking it off the tax roll,
Who owns it?
well,
The guy that owns the apartments.
the apartments. So it's currently,
That's why he wants to get rid of it.
Yeah,
Remember we talked about
Originally,
when they were
he-
building, and they
yeah.
said, I'm not sure.
what he's gonna do with it or what he wants to.
well, they actually had a botanist go out and take a look at it, and he was trying to convince me that there was some upland fronting on East Street,
Hmm.
and I says, I don't see it.
Yeah.
And we finally decided that we weren't gonna pursue it anymore, arguing about it, so
Yeah.
he left and I left, and that was the end of it. But sometimes the botanists are trying to represent the client as best they can,
Yeah.
and so I just said, you know, is this how you do your normal thing? And
I mean,
embarrassed him a little bit, but he decided that he wasn't gonna push it.
Yeah.
realistically, I don't think it's gonna affect the value of those apartment buildings by taking it off of
Nope.
the tax rolls on their property. I'm looking at it potentially that if 106 ever gets widened, they're gonna have to do land takings somewhere. If the town already owns it, it's a lot less of a land taking to take it from yourself than take it from somebody else.
Hmm.
Because then somebody else might want to sell it.
Right, I mean, I'm just looking long-term, that, at least that part of it,
Or if they ever, I know they just reworked the intersection up
Right.
there, but if they ever wanna turn.
well, if they have to widen the road and increase the size of the intersection, or,
So could we take like a little portion of it? Not all of it?
well, I was also looking at that land behind it. That looks like it's potentially upland.
Mhm.
And that if the golf course wants to do something with a structure or a gazebo or a, there's some upland there that they
They
could
could put it up.
use. I mean, or if they need for something. I mean, and it connects to all the other land.
I mean, how
I mean, it also
how
protects
many
it.
taxes are we losing?
Yeah, considering.
I mean, right, you're keeping the structures, the buildings, which is where the tax revenue is.
Right.
I mean, the amount of
I
land
don't have
there,
anything to lose.
I don't
right.
think
I-
there's much for
If
taxes.
it wasn't connected at all,
Yeah.
I would've just said,
Right.
don't bother.
Right, if it wasn't,
Turn around, go.
yeah,
Sure.
but where it's connected to town-owned property already,
Yeah.
it, and I'm also wondering that, okay, it's a visible site, so I'm not as worried, but you never know what the neighborhood's gonna do.
Hmm.
And all of a sudden, resident A gets an ATV and decides, let's go driving everywhere.
Sure. Sure.
Or goes off onto the golf course or what, I mean, it just gives us a buffer with a little more
Do you
protection.
know how
of
many
course.
square foot it is, John?
I could tell you.
Looks to be almost twice the size of the housing development. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
good-sized piece of property.
Yeah.
But again, we said no the first time because we didn't
You didn't.
own it or need it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think he maybe thought there was a chance. It wasn't all that wet.
Right, or that potentially
in
something
yeah.
there.
I don't know how
could
big
be-
that is, but.
Right,
But at the time, he owned the golf course.
Right. and if the golf course wasn't a golf course and it got developed, then this
Yes.
could all be part of
Yeah.
a bigger
yeah,
picture.
for Sure.
Yeah, it's 3.82 acres.
Put your house right there.
Of mixed habitat, right?
Town administrator's house.
Hmm?
Town administrator's house on the golf course.
Yeah.
Would you call that mixed habitat?
Well, yeah, it's got, a forested wetland. It's also got, let me just make sure.
No.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
will.
there's actual forest, there's meadow. So yes, it's mixed habitat. It's got some upland.
Yeah.
I have no problem.
Hmm?
No problem.
Yeah.
A motion to accept the land donation? Or do we want to
How much is it,
Why
how
not?
much the taxes are on that?
Usually when you click on it, it oh, okay, here it is. This can't be right. Because it's got the buildings and the land, but yet
Oh,
it's
yeah.
it's only showing the land. Let me just check. I think they got it reversed. They value can't be. I can't give you an accurate one, even though it's clicks and says that it's 1,056,000.
Yeah.
Yep,
Uh,
keep that one back. Taking that one.
Or they've got another category called other value, which might be that wetland part. That's 61,300.
Yeah.
Still a lot.
That is a lot. It seems really high,
Wetlands
doesn't it?
actually do get taxed
For
for
3 acres?
for quite a bit of money,
Really?
and people complain about that, and then they have to go argue. But that's what I've heard.
Hmm.
For 3 acres? Seems really high, doesn't it?
I don't want it.
But they
That's
don't
me.
differentiate a wetland from a buildable lot
I mean, but
when they
even
assess it.
Yeah, but
3 acres is 3
Unless you go for an
acres
abatement.
That high?
there's no building on that.
I know there isn't, but if you go for an abatement, you could fight that to get it lowered, but
Well, that's true.
But is that the going rate, you think, for 3 acres of land?
It is.
that's low.
Huh?
Really? 61,000 a year?
Oh, that's
No,
what
no,
the value.
value,
Oh,
value,
the
the value.
Oh,
Oh, it's not the
Oh.
taxes.
no.
That's not the
Oh, I
taxes,
thought that
that's the
was the
value.
taxes.
No, no,
But
the
it's-
value.
Yeah,
Oh,
I see.
61,000 is the
Oh,
value,
I
and then
thought-
you
No,
get the
that's-
tax
I
off
thought
of
it was
that,
the
which is
tax.
small. I mean,
Small,
it's
yeah.
not,
oh, okay.
I
yeah,
say we take it.
Jeez.
yeah,
It's a couple $1,000 in taxes,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's
I mean-
take
which is
it.
nothing.
Yeah, okay. I thought it was
so I entertain a
61,000.
motion to accept the land
Make a
donation.
motion to accept it.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all's in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Tell them to drop their paperwork.
So here's the question, do you want it to be held in what they call the conservation uses or for general municipal uses? So the way the deed would be written is that it would be 322 East Center Street LLC conveys to the town of West Bridgewater for conservation purposes, parcel of land, and what that means is it can't be used for any municipal purposes, like the golf course. So do we want to restrict
No,
or
I
just
don't-
take it?
I wouldn't want
Yeah, I
to
don't think I'd wanna put that restriction on it. I mean, it'd be nice to have it under our little whatever, but I think there's a bigger purpose here that,
So
What's the bigger purpose?
Non-restricted or general use?
well, that,
General use.
General use?
you know, if they end up having to widen 106 or redo the intersection,
Yeah, but
Okay.
couldn't they
And we've
just
locked
come
it
to us
in
anyway?
that
I mean,
they
would
can't-
Yeah, but-
come to
then you'd
us?
have to fight yourself to get it from eminent domain to take it over. And
Yeah, but isn't that something that we can just,
Right.
okay, take
once we got it,
300 feet of the thing?
No, because once it's been made into conservation land, you have to go to the state legislature to get
Oh.
the...
to get it released.
The
Okay.
release from it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or if they wanted to do something with that upland side to develop it, you,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, I'll work with the...
However, we could name it Mo's Meadow.
Sounds great.
I like that, it's got a ring to it.
This is a meadow.
Is that what you said?
Well, there's a wild kind of meadow that's there. I mean,
stop peeing in your meadow.
What is the...
People are gonna think that
For
it's
so many
really
years, I've driven
MOW,
by there, and
meadow.
they've got this fencing around
Oh, the
a
meadow.
little really wet spot.
Yes.
Is that something that's dangerous and they're
I
trying
don't
to
know.
keep people out?
I'm wondering whether there's an old well possibly there or a cow
Where?
in the middle of that spot. If you look,
There's
Bird
fencing?
watching,
there's kind of a
That's where the.
fence around a spot right out
Yeah.
in
Oh,
the
really?
My
middle.
previous owner of the house on East Street had a cow out there.
Right, and I
Or a calf
And
or
a-
something.
thought there used to be cows out there at
And
one
they
point.
used to have it in an old
in the wet.
box, a truck.
Yeah.
It's really
Truck
wet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but in the summer it's not as bad.
Yeah,
And if you're out,
suppose, yeah.
you have a young calf that you're putting out to pasture, or dry cow
all of
that's
the
going out for the
goldenrod.
summer.
Yeah,
and get fat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna bet there might be a structure of some type that is
It's
there.
probably the
Dangerous.
old truck body that's
Mhm.
hidden in the bushes.
Could be.
Yeah.
Only other thing I have is Bay Circuit Alliance has their annual membership meeting October 27th in Wayland from 12 to 3, if anybody's interested. And they are also looking for nominations for Friends of the Bay Circuit Trail Award and for the Al French Bay Circuit Trail Service Award. Which if
I wouldn't know where to begin.
anybody thinks of anybody or has something, we can fill these out and send them in. I'm
I
not
can
sure,
send you the criteria if you want to read it at your leisure.
not sure if we have anybody that's worked on,
We do, but
Kitty.
the person is
wants to be
not the type that
anonymous.
wants,
Yeah.
that wants to be acknowledged
Right.
publicly for it. It's amazing what this gentleman does, so. I
And I'm
don't know.
not sure if the new group that's working on the river cleanups,
They haven't been at it long enough.
right, would be somebody we can keep in the back of our heads for
For the
future.
future, right.
And as,
Is that nicking them?
yeah, as Pratt's Landing and other places along the Bay Circuit Trail in town start to get
Hmm.
more utilized.
Keep them in mind.
Other than that, I don't have anything else. Anybody else have anything?
I was just gonna say, this is the first time I saw the logo on Lee's shirt. I love it.
Oh, yeah.
The combined everybody?
Yeah, they do a hat. I got a couple of these hats. I got a collared shirt like this.
I was trying to figure out, I thought it was a fish at first,
is it?
and then I realized it
It's
wasn't.
Celtics, Bruins,
Oh.
Patriots, and Red Sox.
Red Sox all merged into
Where'd you
one.
get that? Kmart?
No, somebody locally made it for. I think they were making them for
Oh,
raising money
nice.
because there's something with the family or something.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
that.
Nice.
I'll have to find out if you guys are interested.
very cool.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Oh, man.
Motion to adjourn.
Whoa.
A second? All those in favor?
Aye.